Hi, I'm Christina.
And I'm Matt.
And this is New Ways Podcast. Today we are talking about anxiety. Anxiety.
That gave me anxiety.
Did it?
No, I'm just kidding.
That made me feel good. It makes me feel less anxious when I sing. But anxiety. Let's get into it. Matt, what is anxiety?
Anxiety, by Webster Dictionary's definition, is an apprehensive uneasiness or nervousness, usually over an impending or anticipated ill state of being. Also
Anxious.
known as anxious. So,
Mm-hmm.
An ill state of being, my existence. All right. Let's get into
An ill state. Why do you say that?
Oh, I'm kidding.
Are you?
It's funny. Supposedly.
Mental health is not a joke, Matt.
It is to me. It's just a constant state of clownery.
Oh my.
All right. Okay. So talking about anxiety is interesting because I feel like obviously we deal with it on multitude of levels, and this is literally a 30-minute episode. So I just kind of want to go over some of your own personal experiences about anxiety, as well as also ways that not only you've coped, but ways that you feel like you've learned to cope from others.
Mm-hmm.
So because you being in the wellness space have so much knowledge in regards to how to kind of, de-escalate the anxiety, but also de-escalating that giant fight or flight response too. So much of that is in breath work, and so much of that is in the wellness events, and so much of that is in the holistic healing that you do. So let's kind of dive into some of that first.
Yeah.
Before we get into the clinical stuff.
No, for sure. I guess I can start with my own personal experience with anxiety. And man, when I tell you, I feel like everybody, especially now more than ever, experiences anxiety. I can tell you I'm pretty sure every single one of my clients and people in the hospital especially have came to me at some point with some form of anxiety, and it's different to everybody. I'm sure back in the day, in my younger days, different types of things would give me anxiety, but now oddly enough, the main thing that does give me anxiety, and I love you guys so much, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, is my family.
I swear to God, I thought she was going to say the podcast. And I was like, girl,
No,
same.
I love the podcast. This does not give me anxiety.
This gives me all the anxiety. No, I'm just
But and I don't want them to take that the wrong way, because we'll kind of go into what anxiety means necessarily. But dude, a lot of things don't cause me anxiety though anymore because of certain reasons and things that I've worked through. So
sure.
I'm not an anxious person. I might have been previously, not really anymore. Why are you looking at me, Matt? Bring something to light. Am I an anxious person? But my family brings me anxiety for sure.
Yeah.
Just looking, I've even spoken this openly to my mom. She came out here to California to visit me, and we were I don't spend that much time with my mother anymore. We live in different states. We were in my car driving, and I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm just letting you know if I start acting weird, or it's just this is kind of honestly a stressful situation for me. I don't know why I really want this to go perfectly. You're making me feel anxious. I just want to be open about you and letting you know that. So yeah, I think my family causes a lot of anxiety in me. And I think it's just also because they're my family. So I want them to have a good time whenever I see them. And I also honestly, there's still that little kid in me that wants them to be proud of me. And when you care about what other people think and you're put in uncomfortable situations, it can cause anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about you? What are some of your anxiety? Everything.
The therapist in me wants to deep dive that so hard.
But that's what I mean. So anxiety.
But we'll be here for hours.
Yeah. And anxiety, I'm not saying we're going to give you some techniques to lessen the severity of your anxiety, but anxiety is so multifaceted and deeply rooted from so many things that it's going to take, there's ways to control it, but for you to rid your anxiety altogether takes a decent amount of deep work.
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone to think that we're going to teach them ways to calm it. That's just calming and lessening the symptoms. Yep. A lot of times you do have to go deeper, and I'll give some examples also.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's your favorite physical symptom of anxiety? You know what mine is? Heart palpitations. I like the idea of almost having a heart attack.
That's your favorite?
If you're you're like, oh, this is it. This is the big one. I can feel it. I'm ready.
You guys.
And then you just realize you're having anxiety. But
so what gives you anxiety though? What causes that in you?
Coffee. No, I will say that anything that is at Starbucks.
I don't know if that's necessarily anxiety.
No,
I think that's caffeination.
It increases my anxiety tenfold. Or if you just go to the Starbucks on Hollywood, that will give you anxiety. Anyways, just that place. But no, I think for me, one of the biggest things that gives me anxiety is not being organized. And it's interesting because I'm not someone that has to be like an OCD organizer, but I like to know how my day is going to go about. I talk about this in previous episodes, but consistency is very important and consistency is key. And I think sometimes when you have those erratic moments of not being consistent and when things aren't quite aligning or they're not going the way you want to, it can just sort of definitely create that downward spiral feeling of chest pain. It's going to be the big one of these days.
So let me ask you this then. When things are unorganized, what other feelings do you have or things you anticipate?
Dread, self-doubt, lack of motivation.
Okay.
Sweating, nausea, vomiting. I'm just
but
releasing symptoms like
genuine.
No,
but that's the thing is like a lot of people might be like, where does anxiety stem from? And it stems from a lot of places. But one thing that I can always like kind of see in people when they're like, like I have anxiety around this gives me anxiety, is a lot of times it's about honestly stress provokes anxiety, either being put in a stressful situation or anticipating a stressful situation or anticipating something happening that you feel like you do not have control over.
Yeah.
I feel like that is where a lot of anxiety, like the very basic, like soil level, not root, but soil level of anxiety kind of stems from is like lack of control and just a stressful situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there can be so many different things that promote anxiety. It could be, I know this is a familiar term coming into people's lives now. My sister uses it all the time, but the Sunday scaries. Have you heard of those?
Sure have.
Which is pretty much anxiety about the impending work week ahead of you, which is like a form of anticipatory anxiety. It's not even anxiety for something that's actually happening. It's like, oh, I know this work week might be rough. I know it's going to leave me stressed. Let me get anxiety about it. Yeah. You know, have you ever had this?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting. If you ever go to, I mean, this sounds like very whatever, but if you ever get the chance to go to an equinox, even for the day, it's like $30. Honestly, I recommend everyone.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's only like $35.
I didn't think they did day passes.
I think they do. I've paid for a day pass. So
out here in LA?
Yeah.
Oh damn. Okay.
I did it once.
You guys, good to know. Continue.
Maybe you can go with the guest. I don't know. Anyways.
Equinox.
Yeah, fine. Whatever. Just go show up. Anyways, but it's be like, hey.
Get a free tour.
Yeah, try it. You know, the thing is but they did something there that when I moved to LA that I thought was the coolest thing ever. And still to this day, I actually talk about it. And that is they do a Sunday, what they call like Sunday Scaries reset pretty much. And it's a yoga class dedicated to high stressed individuals to help them reset going into a Monday. And it's only on Sundays. It's crazy hard to get into the class. I had to book it like 3 weeks in advance.
So that gave you anxiety too, right?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. But once I went to the class, I was like, wow, this is cool. Like it was so amazing to have like a dedicated yoga class for high stressed individuals going into a work week on a Monday. It was just funny. I
love that though. I mean,
it was just
I don't love the fact that we all need to we all are also
I don't love that
stressed
has
about
to
work,
exist.
that has to be a thing. I don't like that, but I do like how they're like acknowledging that it does exist and hey, what can we do to help? Yeah. For sure. I think that's great because most people would be like, suck it up. Yep. It's work. You're fine.
You can make it. You can do it.
I don't know. So yeah, I think that's one thing that can cause anxiety is anticipatory stress for sure, especially in like relation to the workplace. I see a lot of anxiety because I mean, it's one of the most important things in a lot of people's lives is how they make their money because I mean, money is a thing, obviously. Some people put a lot of importance on it, some not so much. I don't get anxiety about it because I just think everything's going to always work out, hence the shirt. But one thing that I thought was so interesting, and I had a client who would tell me every time she would see her boss, she would get anxiety. And to me, I was like, okay, so is that a person that's causing anxiety and not a situation, right? I'm like, so what about your boss causes you anxiety? She's like, I don't know. He's a great person. Like, this man is thoughtful, kind, never really makes me feel like that uneasy. I'm like, okay, so what's going through your head when you speak with him? We found out that was what was causing her anxiety. What?
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Is it because he looked like someone in her past?
No.
Whoa. Okay. Never mind.
Even though I feel like that could definitely be relevant. And that's something I also want to talk about, is going into like situations or like environments that you were previously in that would cause anxiety. But no, so I was like, so if your boss is a great person, like, why are you getting anxiety around him? And we kind of talked through like the encounters that they have, the situations, and how she views herself and her work environment. Mm-hmm. She would get anxiety because deep down, she didn't feel like she was doing a good enough job at work. She lacked faith and confidence in her own skills, and that's what was causing her anxiety. So I'm like, anxiety is not always surface level either. A lot of times it can be like you not having confidence in yourself, and not having confidence in yourself to control the situation is what can scare you, cause stress, and cause anxiety. So like I say, it's multifaceted and very, very deeply rooted, even though there's certain types of triggers. It's like, why is this triggering you?
For sure.
You know? Have you ever had a situation like that where you see somebody, though, that looked like someone you knew and caused anxiety?
So I have been on the receipt. I have not personally been the person I've not been the person that's like been anxious because someone looked like someone I knew. But that being said, I have been as a therapist, I've actually been on the receiving end of that. And it's
I could see that.
Crazy. When I worked in residential was such a wild, and I obviously I won't get into the story too much just because honestly, I had to kind of protect my own mental health around it. Mm-hmm. And so, because the story was that severe, but it was a very dangerous situation for one of my clients. And sadly, I looked like a very dangerous person from her past.
Oh, wow.
And so that brought up crazy amounts of trauma and crazy amounts of emotion that would go along with it. And so the problem with that was like being able to like confront that in real time, recognizing it was crazy. Anyways.
Wait, so you guys were able to squash it between you two, or was it kind of just a situation where it's...
I think it was like half squashed. It was more just like her being able to the biggest thing for me was like taking it, compartmentalizing it, like recognizing that I'm not that person, that you are in a safe place and I'm here to help. Now, what she took with that information was up to her.
Yeah.
You know, and so she recognized that she was in a safe place. She recognized I was here to help, but I think that it was still hard to remove that outer sphere.
Oh, definitely. Especially if you're somebody that's actually there to for her to confine in. I could see where that's 10 times more difficult versus just like you're a stranger walking on the street and she sees you. Yeah. She's supposed to actually openly talk to you about things that are extremely vulnerable.
For sure. And it's not like you can just and for anyone who's ever been through addiction or has ever gone through residential, you don't get to just choose your therapist. They just hand you one and you're like, this is your person for the next 8 weeks. Good luck. 8 to 10 weeks. So it was a very interesting dynamic that we really had to work through, and ended up having a second therapist with us was really helpful. But yeah, it's fascinating to kind of be in those situations and to deal with that again, dealing with that level of anxiety and that level of fear in a way, and being able to really recognize where it came from, how it came about, and also how we can be able to control the fear and anxiety that we're currently having, recognizing that the past does affect who we are presently, because it can, but we're not going to try to let it affect us in the future. And how are we going to get there? So anyways.
No, I was going to say though too, because I know we've had a guest previously come on here as well and talk about exposure therapy, and let alone that wasn't chosen exposure therapy. But do you think in regards to anxiety that could be beneficial in a way? I know that's kind of trauma, far out, but
yeah, trauma therapy is different because we're trying not to expose people to trauma, right? Because you don't want to do that.
No, definitely not.
But using DBT and CBT, which dialectal behavioral therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, and being able to really sit down, and also like group therapy is super helpful. And just being able to verbalize fears, anxieties, and getting to like the root of a lot of issues. Yeah. So that is like I know we talked about like a lot of the surface stuff too. But then when you kind of get into those deeper roots, you recognize where a lot of stuff comes from. And you can actually I would say about 70% of the time, I was able to almost pinpoint it to one or two main events in that person's life that caused that kind of alteration in who they were.
Well, yeah, because when you have one thing that shakes your like core belief about yourself or your reality, it trickles into other areas. Then when you're not like that one stable person, it's just like all those little, like think about a road, right? Like you get those little cracks all over the place and it just crumbles apart, So I get that completely. The reason why I bring that up too, though, is because when I even spoke with like my client, yes, there were some deeper rooted issues why she did not feel like she did enough or did a good enough job, I guess. But something that I encouraged her to do too is I'm like, realizing where you stand and that you're not projecting, I guess. I'd like definitely take care of the stuff that caused it, but also be aware of when you are projecting a previous situation into a current situation.
Yeah.
I think is really beneficial. And then when you see this current situation, if you could make little steps to feel more confident and secure in that situation, I think is extremely beneficial with anxiety. Because I told her, I'm like, have you ever gotten a bad review? No. Have you spoken openly with your boss about performance and said you just want to make sure you're doing your best? No. And I'm like, do you think maybe just having those basic conversations would give you less anxiety then? Because at least it's not going to fix the core issue, but at least it's a little bit of reinsurance. And then that way, when you see him, though, you're not referring back to a previous experience.
Yep.
If that makes any sense.
For sure.
So yeah, I do believe that like anxieties are rooted far deeper in a lot of other things that are probably not addressed. But what are ways then that people can kind of at least cope with anxiety?
I would say, this sounds so rhetorical, but finding a safe place to be able to like figure out what's going on. Honestly, like some people really love the shower. Some people like that's like a place to like really cope with anxiety is just like taking a shower.
I've done that before. Yeah.
I mean, that's like an easy one right off the bat. Also sitting down, like I tell people also too, like buying a weighted blanket is amazing. I cannot stress enough the importance of that, or like a weighted stuffy, even though yes, it's predominantly for kids. Yes, it's in the kids aisle.
Freaking fabulous.
Go snatch one. Like $25.
I love the Squishmallows. I know they're not weighted, but like hugging those things is just great.
No, and I mean they make weighted Squishmallows now. So
do they really?
Yeah, I don't know if the Squishmallow brand makes it, but they're pretty much ones that are just like it, and it's amazing. It's the best thing ever. So I think like being able to find small things, you don't have to like being able to find those small things that's really going to help you sort of just alleviate yourself in that moment. You don't need to go to Hawaii to relieve your stress. You can, but you don't have to. You know what I mean? It's just like,
but yeah.
But I think that is one of like the biggest things is people think they always have to have these kind of like grand sort of ways to remove themselves from society to get back and take time for themselves and R&R and everything. And it's like, no, a lot of it can just be started at home, doing very small, very minor, very, tiny habits to, help really sort of keep yourself going long term.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest change in my anxiety level and what's been most beneficial to me, honestly, has been mindfulness when it comes to anxiety, let alone there are certain things, especially like people who have caused anxiety in my life and areas and situations where I get there, the anxiety comes rushing back.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the little everyday anxieties that are projections of previous ones, like previous traumas, I like to think that like my faith in that everything is going to work out fine has caused my anxiety to go down significantly, because when you actually take a beat and you realize that like right now, what I'm getting anxious about is probably not even that bad. I'm just making it seem worse than it is because like my body is getting triggered by something. To me, it's just when I learned to control my nervous system, that's when my anxiety went away the most. It's just realizing, hey, everything's going to work out the way that it's supposed to work out. I did the best that I could and I'm leaving it at that.
Yeah.
In some ways, I implemented mindfulness and also like not letting these things get to me is one. And I hate to say it because I'm not a big distraction person, but if something is occupying your brain that much and it's causing you anxiety and a physical reaction within your body, like take a beat and go and do something to distract yourself. Like you said, take a shower, go for a walk, like realize that like you overthinking the situation is making your anxiety worse.
For sure.
Like there are things that you can do to get it out of your head and not let it control your life or your behavior. Once you do that, like then you're slowly training yourself to not constantly think about things, to put your energy elsewhere in a way. Also too, like Michael Singer's book is fabulous, where he says, think about your thoughts, especially toxic thoughts, as like balloons passing by. Don't let them affect you. Be like, oh, I'm thinking this right now. Is it like actually true? Is it just causing like a reaction in me? Let it pass. Do what you can to fix things if they're relevant, obviously. But just like, look at your thoughts as like a passing balloon.
Yeah.
Like floating by in the sky. That's peaceful. So I don't get anxious.
Yeah.
As well as also breathing techniques. And I know you've spoken with about this too, is like when your heart starts to race and your mind starts wandering, you like to breathe sevens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't talked about that in a minute, actually.
Ooh, we haven't. Yeah. Breathe sevens for my people who have really good lung capacity. For some of us who don't, which is totally okay. And it happens. Breathe threes is also really good. Where it's just holding for 3 seconds or 7 seconds, and then breathing in for that time period, holding for that time period, and then exhaling for that time period. So definitely using like those are such beautiful ways to kind of really ground yourself, because like we've talked about, like it sort of like trains your brain a little bit to recognize when it does need to slow down. I love using that technique actually when I fly, because I'm not a flyer. I don't really love planes all that much.
Why don't you like planes?
I don't know. I just don't. I just like the idea of a metal tube 30,000 feet in the air while traveling 600.
It's scary to you. It's a stressful situation.
Like, what is going on? Yeah. You know, it's just like, and then I'm an aisle person. I have to sit in the aisle. If I don't, fear immediately. I don't know why. I don't mind being in an enclosed space like this, but there's something about like,
I get it.
Oh no, can't do it. Yeah. Anyways, that's my story.
Well, no, because that's the thing is like, so that's once again, address the root cause of a lot of your anxieties, but also like anxiety is a physical response, right?
It is.
Like your heart starts to race, your blood pressure goes up, you start having irrational thoughts, you start getting worked up for no reason, and it does take a lot of your energy. So therefore, like just being mindful and learning how to calm your nervous system, like it definitely helps. It's better for your body. And it's kind of like we talked about before, consistency is the more you do it, the more you're actually going to like catch those moments of anxiety and be like, I'm not like, why am I having this? For what reason? I do believe listen to anxiety and see when it actually serves a purpose. Because if your job is causing you that much anxiety or a person is causing you that much anxiety, hey, it might be time to like remove yourself. But also too, if you realize it's a deeper rooted fear and you're just trying to control this moment and not project, mindfulness techniques, great.
Yep.
Like Matt said, breathing in sevens. Did you say 7 seconds in, hold for 7 and 7 seconds out? Is that what it is? No, I really love the mindfulness techniques. And I feel like it's just like training your body and different ways for you to like thrive in this world, hopefully, and just become a little bit more calm and collective and lessen the anxiety. And also something that I want to encourage people, and I'm guilty of this, is like realize when it's anxiety and when it's something else also. As I feel like sometimes anxiety, the term gets thrown around very loosely. Yeah. And there is a difference between anxiety and fear. And there's a difference between anxiety and excitement, even though they oftentimes have very similar manifestations in the body. You know, is there anything that you can do to like, that you can think of to pinpoint what the emotion is besides anxiety for you?
I think if you're to pinpoint it past anxiety, a lot of it just, for me personally, it deals with sort of confidence is a big one. So, because like a lot of people feel sadness, or maybe a lot of them feel anger, but for me, it's like confidence. Being able to like, can I do this? Am I worthy of, like your client, it's kind of that same thing. Like, am I worthy of being in this room? And I think even, I've been lucky enough to be in a position now where, I've been able to create my own success. But the thing is at the end of the day, I still come home and I feel anxious, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have to do this. I have to do this. Like, I have to make sure this is right. And I have to make sure this client has this. And, it can definitely put a different spin on how you think about things, for sure.
Definitely. I do think confidence is key in a lot of things in life, to be honest with you. Confidence pays out so many times in so many different aspects, but that is true though. I feel like you will lessen your anxiety the more sure you are of yourself, because you have less to worry about. You're like, I know my skills. I know I'm capable. Yeah. And like, then you're not going to get freaked out and stressed out about the situation. Also too, I think what's beautiful that you said, I think that's beautiful you said it like that, because a true turning point for me, I realized, is like, I used to experience like anxiety around public speaking, oddly enough, or like anxiety about giving people advice, right? And then slowly I realized it changed from anxiety actually into excitement. Like there was a few times where I'm like, should I really do this? I'm anxious. And I'm like, I'm actually excited. They can manifest in very similar ways, except a lot of times anxiety is a negative emotion and it's telling you not to do something, where excitement is like, you're excited to do it, go do it. So it's weird because they're very similar, but I changed my anxiety into excitement for the things that I do now. I finally saw like, I'm confident and able. And then that's when it turned to excitement, even though they were very similar.
Nice.
So I'm happy you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Being able to turn, your anxiety into excitement. It's a very interesting twist. So,
So last final thought, what do you do for your anxiety?
Cry.
Into your squishmallow?
Into my squishmallow.
Into your squishmallow.
No, like honestly, I know this, it's honestly just go on a walk. God, I love a walk. I like to walk my dog, and I love to, just really, I put on a good audiobook now, because I'm an adult.
Oh my God, this thing is insane, you guys. Matt's audiobooks are like full-blown plays.
Yeah, they're good. Okay. Heads Will Roll with Kate McKinnon is insane. It's amazing. Please watch it. But I love being able to like really immerse myself in sort of a different world. So a lot of people do that with movies, and it's like, if you can find, even if you just like listen to the movie while you walk, it's just really fun to be able to like sort of take yourself out of your own reality for a little bit. And I always appreciate those moments.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I think mine would probably be, and I know this is like, once again, easier said than done, and probably the simplest thing is like, every time I start to get stressed or feel anxious or I'm fearful, something always repeats in my mind. And I'm like, it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like just knowing that thought, to me, I'm just fully convinced like everything's always going to work out exactly the way that it's supposed to. And every opportunity is a way for me to grow. And that's it. Like just knowing things will be okay, regardless if it doesn't feel like it or not. Like me just telling myself that is what all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm good. So just reassurance in myself and the world and situations.
That's awesome. More power to you. I could not do that.
Most people are like, you're insane. It's not always working out. But I don't know. My faith is a huge thing in my life, and mindfulness has brought that to me. And I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, I'm just like, everything's going to work out exactly how it's supposed to.
Nice.
And part of me also loves the fact that like I have complete control in everything and absolutely no control in anything. Yeah. So we're just going to go with that.
That's cool.
But yeah, thank you for this talk. I hope it didn't bring you too much anxiety, Matthew.
All the anxiety, all the thoughts, all the feelings.
You guys, it's me. I give Matt anxiety. Thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, I love you.
Thank you so much, and keep shining your light.